Toronto Blue Jays shortstop Yunel Escobar is being investigated for a homophobic "I black" message that he had. And let me just let you guys know that there was no need for the message or any type of "I black" shenanigans.
No shenanigans were necessary. It is important that this be noted for the record.
No, but it was unnecessary because the stadium is in a closed space.
Now,
there's no sun access at all.
Okay, I mean, there's lights, but look. No. But he also had sunglasses on.
Yes.
If he really was worried about things getting in his eyes, man, boy, was he overprotective. There's his sunglasses. There's a roof. Calm down, dude.
Now, the message on his face was basically "Tu eres maricón," which, if you translate it, means "you are a faggot."
So that's incredibly harsh. And,
yes.
I mean, you want to talk about unnecessary. Why are you going to go get yourself in trouble like that? I mean, even if you're a homophobe, you're a Major League Baseball player, man. You got it pretty good. You're going to come and do something stupid like that. You think you're not going to get in trouble? Did you not see what happened with Kobe? Right? In basketball, Kobe says a gay slur, the world explodes, right? And by the way, we think rightfully so. Now, look, you might say, oh my God, people overreact, et cetera, et cetera. But look, this is how you send a message that, you know what, discrimination is not acceptable. Now, we're not saying the guy should be kicked out of baseball forever, but some people are talking about suspending him for the rest of the season. Yeah,
it's really interesting. In fact, one of the fans for the Toronto Blue Jays, and he was in the dugout, he's the person who took the original photo that got a lot of attention, and he wrote the following. He said, "I have a privileged seat near the Blue Jays dugout and allows me a close-up of some pretty awesome moments. This one, however, is really disappointing." And that's from James G., a fan of the Toronto Blue Jays. And I like that people are speaking out against this, Cenk. I think you're totally right. And it's a perfect example of how the conservatives are losing. Right? Because this movement is progressing, and it's progressing quickly. That anytime you have a public figure that speaks out against the gay community or makes a homophobic slur, they are going to be called out on it, and they are going to be held accountable. And I think it's great. It's awesome.
Now, some people might say, look, that's political correctness and it's oppressive, et cetera. But think about what it used to be like. That if you said, you know, in the old days in the locker rooms, which weren't that old, by the way, you know, if you did something, they say, oh, they call you gay, they call you the F word, they call you this, that. And think about how somebody might feel if they were gay in that locker room, whether they're an athlete, they're a reporter, or they just happen to work there for whatever reason, right? And those are the bad old days where people feel genuinely oppressed and put upon. And now the fact that it's reversed to the point where we're, if anything, you know, some might argue overly sensitive to that. Well, I don't view that as a bad thing. I view that as an excellent course adjustment. Now, you can have an argument as to whether this guy should get the rest of the season suspension. That's really, really harsh. And so
I don't think, another thing to keep in mind, I like that this is being investigated and people aren't jumping to conclusions because, look, that could have been translated in different ways. Like we talked to Jesus, and Jesus says, well, in, you know, Mexican culture, if you use that phrase, it means faggot. But in other cultures, you know, it could mean something different. It could be translated differently. So I like that it's being investigated.
Like in German, it could mean potato salad.
But I do want to note that if they do find out that that's what he meant, then no, a suspension is not that ridiculous. I think that it's...
No, I don't think suspension is ridiculous. I think that he should almost certainly be suspended.
Right.
The question is how long. So Jesus, not only our Mexican-American correspondent, but also our baseball correspondent, joins us for the rest of this conversation.
Well, he actually got 3-game suspension, which I think it's fine.
So in the end, after all that big to-do, he wound up getting a 3-game suspension, which is much lower than the rest of the season.
And then obviously in a baseball season, it's at the tail end already. There's 2 weeks left in the season, 3 games. It's not that big of a deal.
Now, you know, look, I've lost track of baseball. Are the Blue Jays in contention or no?
No.
So in fact, having him serve out the, you know, suspension for the rest of the season actually wouldn't have been that bad either. Just a couple of weeks.
Yeah, exactly. Because it is around the time they bring up all their minor league call-ups, so they'll probably get more playing time anyways. So
right. And by the way, the fan was a little above the dugout. He was, of course, not in the dugout. I just wanted to make that clear. So in the end, we think that justice is somewhat done, and a clear message was sent. And my guess is nobody's going to write on their face anymore any derogatory terms about gay folks in baseball. Great, that's what we wanted.